I'd like to take a look at a tweet from Red Cross, especially for those who still have relatives and friends missing, or relatives and friends that you are not aware where they are. Do we have the tweet from Red Cross? Okay, so we'll get you that tweet. We'll also get you the tweet from the Director of Criminal Investigation, just trying to give a direction to Kenyans on this is where we are going from here, and this is how we can help Kenyans as much as we can. So in studio, we have security analyst Oscar Awite, who's a security risk consultant, East and Central Africa. We have Tabitha Mwangi as well, who's a research associate at Terrorism Center for International and Security Affairs. Lady and gentlemen, thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. Tabitha, let me begin with you. Just from where you sit, unpack for me what you have seen today, the entire day, and the response and where we are as a country.
Okay, so I was in the house when I heard about the attack. My brother came to the sitting room and told me exactly what was happening, and I logged onto social media like probably many other Kenyans did. And what was surprising for me was all the images that were coming through, the stories that people were telling on social media, incidents of people saying where they're hiding. And as someone who has studied counterterrorism, I just went into shock, wondering how do we best equip our people in Kenya to know how to keep themselves safe during an attack. And I think one of the things that kept ringing in my mind the whole day was, how do we let the media know how to best tell the public about this? Because terrorism has a lot to do with media, and the media need, the terrorists need the media as much as, you know, as any other organization. And if the media is not careful in how they report these incidents and the public is not informed on how to respond to attacks, then it becomes worse for law enforcement, because intelligence that they already have will be shared by mistake. Places where people are hiding will be told, and it just makes it more difficult for law enforcement to do their work. So for me, the biggest scare was, how do we build so much public resilience in the people to know how to best keep themselves safe during an attack, and how can the media work more closely with law enforcement to keep the people updated, but at the same time not play into the terrorist game. Because remember what a famous research and counterterrorism Brian Jenkins said is that terrorists don't need a lot of people dead. They do not need a lot of people injured. They just need a lot of people watching TV and scared about what is actually happening. So the most important thing that we can do as Kenyans right now is to keep comforting ourselves and building public resilience and telling people how to best keep themselves safe in the event of an attack, and for the media to be responsible in the images that they share. So for instance, live coverage should be done in a very careful manner to make sure that we don't give too much intelligence. It should be done in a manner that does not take away the dignity of the people who have survived the attack. So for instance, interviewing a distraught woman or someone who's just been attacked and is full of blood and in a stretcher, being taken away to safety. Those are things that I think at this point we need to move away from as a country, even as we get more information from law enforcement about what exactly happened. But one thing I like about the response from the government is they have come out clearly and told us that this is the information we have. We will keep you updated on more information. Beware of, be cautious when sharing information. If you need help, these are the numbers that you should call, which is exactly what they should be doing. So I think for me, as much as I feel scared and angry about what has happened, I am thankful to our law enforcement and officers who've been on toes. Yeah.
A lot of people saying they've done a good job. That response team and the turnaround time, a lot of people say that was good compared to the last couple of attacks we've had. But it's difficult, Tabitha, that balance between coverage and live coverage and the right to information. So maybe we need to get to a middle ground here. Mr. Awite, let me pick your mind as well. Al Jazeera International has just quoted a spokesperson of Al-Shabaab and is claiming responsibility for the attack that we're now witnessing at Riverside. This is also the anniversary of El Ade attack. What do you make of all this?
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I think first I want to give a big up to our internal security agencies. This time we've seen a collaborated effort. We've seen a fairly good cooperation. We've also seen good coordination, and that is why you can see there are less casualties than anyone would expect of a terrorist attack. And so I think our Inspector General has done extremely well there. Two, I just want to pick it from where she said. I think the resilience has grown. Kenyans are getting to understand how to react whenever there is an attack. Other emergency organizations have also been able to respond very well. Up to now, you're able to see the reports coming out from the Inspector General. They're very clear, they're very elaborate. That explains that the response is beautiful. Now, today marks the El Adi attack. It was on the 15th in 2016, the 15th of January. It's very scary that we can pick this as a trend. And when you pick this as a trend, it means the interior team and even the military team have to align together to understand that there is something about an anniversary. We know and we have seen the terror activities have really gone down, particularly in our country. Mm-hmm. And that means there is so much that has been put in place. We only need to improve on public knowledge. People need to understand what exactly they need to do in the event there is an attack. So there's a bit of public education that needs to take shape. The private security also need to collaborate better. They need to understand how well. You've seen how firefighters are handling the fires of the vehicles that were torched. Clearly, there are better methods today that you would use in putting down such fires. So there is a bit of struggle we've noticed. Okay. But I can say it's been handled much better than anyone would have expected.
All right. Ms. Mwangi, let me just pick up from where Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet left it. And he said there has been a combined specialized unit under singular command of GSU, search and rescue and neutralization of criminal elements still ongoing. Let's look at the response. Let's look at how the security agencies have managed this so far, plus the two press conferences. Remember, this press conference that we just had from Boynet is the second one. How the police have handled this?
I like how the police have handled it. They've been very professional about it. They have disclosed only what we need to know. I remember when the attack started, there were reports on social media that it was a bank robbery gone bad. And then they did not respond immediately until they had gotten to the site and have been keeping people updated and especially letting people know that this is still an active police site, that there's still work going on to rescue people and to neutralize the attackers. So they've responded very well about it. And to echo what Mr. Owiti has said, the issue of anniversaries is something that is very important. And also, the issue of terrorists going to the same places that they had already attacked. So the Westgate attack was not too far from where today's attack happened. And so as we and law enforcement think about anniversaries and places that we need to secure more, I think it is also important to remember that terrorists have a tendency of going back to the same places that they had attacked. And until everything is done, people need to remain on high alert and vigilant and report to law enforcement agencies anything that they might see that they think is suspicious.
Mr. Owiti, Kenyans are going to be on edge. There are a couple of people who are afraid, especially relatives and friends of those who were holed up in today's operation, in today's attack. I'm trying to look for a way of framing this. How do you get the country to move forward, but at the same time remain vigilant?
I think if I got you clearly, these are actions that people are supposed to take in the event there's an attack. Yeah, and most importantly, people should know that whenever there is a terrorist attack, of course there will be panic. But then, this is when you apply what we call the sixth sense. Yeah? You need to know what are the steps that I'm supposed to take in the event that there is a terrorist attack where I'm working. One, people need to know that they should run. How do you run? Where do you run to?
Where do you run? What do you do?
Okay. Who do you run with? Okay. Because it is important that when you identify where to run to, is there a way that you can run with somebody else? Is it possible that you save others in the process of evacuating yourself? Then it's also important that you make sure that your escape route is safer, okay? So that you don't run towards danger, yeah? It's also important that you leave your belongings behind. Don't carry anything. Just carry yourself. And if possible, go along with anybody, yeah, who is able to go with you. Don't struggle if anybody around you is unconscious. Yeah? If it is possible that you have time to say anything, tell them to hide. Okay? And that hide becomes, therefore, our next step. If you can run, run. If you can't run, then hide. How do you hide? First, identify the place to hide where is far from the attackers. Okay? Two, yeah, don't make sure that you're not trapped, and don't go closer to the door. Don't go to places where these people can see you. Okay? So hiding makes a lot of sense. Okay. And then turn off your phone. Sometimes it could be attracting them. So
but then that's the one phone, Mr. Witi, what if that is the one phone that can actually help you to get help?
Yes, the phone can help you to get help, but there's instances or circumstances when it may also be dangerous. And that is why when you hear somebody say sixth sense, you need to apply that sixth sense at that time. And you must be very careful with your judgmental mind. Be able to make sure that when you want to use that phone, then you, first of all, when and that is our third step. We call it tell. Yeah? So first, I want people to get this. First, you need to run. And secondly, you need to hide. And third, you need to tell. Tell means you need to communicate.
Okay.
So the phone becomes very important for you if you have to communicate. But then there are emergency lines when you call them, the 999 lines, when you call them, just listen for the instructions so that there is coherent relationship between you and the help.
Okay, it's, Dr. Witi, it's interesting that you're mentioning emergency lines, and we have a line that was posted by Red Cross, and we have some information as well that was posted by the Director of Criminal Investigations Office. Could we get that on air, please? I need to get the tweets from Red Cross. Just talking about emergency numbers, this is important. It's important, very important, especially for a time like this, for people who may not be aware of where their next of kin are or their friends. So Red Cross says, family searching for their loved ones. Let's go back to Red Cross, please, because this is important. It is very important for people who have no idea where their family or their friends are. I'm looking for the tweet by Red Cross, please. There we go. So family searching for their loved ones can call tracing hotline 0715-820219. Remember, we did mention this is an active scenario. So if you have a friend, if you have a relative who you're not able to get close to, you're not able to contact, you may need to call that number. They can help you trace your family member or your friend. Could we move on to the next tweet as well from the Director of Criminal Investigation, just alerting the public out there for all those that are receiving information, especially with respect to the attack, please use the phone number there on your screen belonging to Musa Yego. He's the head of Flying Squad, as alternative to sharing the information, especially on social media. We've just heard from Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet saying social media is now being used by sympathizers of these attackers to create fear. So the little information, the less the information you share, the better. Let's look at another tweet. You can also, the Director of Criminal Investigation says, you can also use the number on your screen belonging to Philip Ndolo. So those are the numbers that you may be able to get help from. You may pass as much information as you can on what you know, or if you need help specifically on the Riverside attack. So we're trying to get for you as much information as we can. It's still a dicey situation, an active scenario. There we go. The National Police specialized units are on site, just basically giving an assurance to Kenyans there to engage the attackers. Please utilize this channel for all official information and refrain from retweeting unconfirmed news. Reiterating what Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet had to say. I understand my colleague Jeff Kirui is on standby. Jeff, can you hear me? I'm not so sure Jeff can hear me. Jeff, can you hear me? Can Jeff hear me? Great, Jeff. You covered that press conference by Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet. In a nutshell, merge it with the first one that he had to say, basically just the message that we're getting from the police even as this situation unfolds. Can Jeff hear me?
Sorry, Linda.
Can you hear me now?
Come again. Yes, I can hear you now.
Great. So you were at Riverside a couple of hours ago. I did mention this has been a continued coverage. So about 2 or 3 hours ago, we were on air with you and you saw what happened. And then you've gone in to cover the press briefing by Inspector General of Police. So in a nutshell, paint for me the picture you saw, plus what the Inspector General had to say, press briefing 1 and press briefing 2.
Well, very good evening, Linda. Indeed, I was there like 2 hours ago, and I managed to see the situation, though I was about 500 meters away from the scene. But what I can confirm is that there were reports that there was a shooter who was on top of a building, and at that time, the police officers and the multi-agency officers were actually trying to neutralize that particular shooter. And there had been, of course, help from the Kenya Air Force. We had seen several choppers from the National Police Service trying to establish the exact trying to establish the particular position of that particular shooter. But as that now, the Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet has confirmed that they have managed to clear 6 floors out of the 7, and they have been able to evacuate the people who are actually stuck inside there. And they're saying now their mission is search, rescue, and neutralize any threat. And as it stands now, he's also giving a warning that there are some people who are actually sympathizing with the attackers, and they are propagating they're propagating their issues online, and they're warning the public that they should not share any videos or any images online. And another thing that the Inspector General of Police has also cautioned is against the numbers which are being shared online and within the social media group, saying that there are specific numbers which the National Police Service as well as the Red Cross has given out to members of the public to share any information they might be having. And as it stands now, Linda, is that they've not given us the exact number of casualties, and we're waiting for that confirmation. And right now we are at Harambee House. We're waiting for a press by the Cabinet Secretary Interior, Fred Matiang'i, whom we are told will be talking to us any minute from now. Perhaps we are waiting to hear who exactly are involved in this. We've not managed to get a clear statement from the Inspector General of Police whether this is a terrorist attack or it's just another criminal attack. We're waiting for that particular confirmation. Remember, there have been reports online that Al-Shabaab has confirmed that they are actually doing an operation in Nairobi, and we're waiting for that particular confirmation from the security apparatus, including the CS for Interior, Fred Matiang'i. Linda.
That would be great. I mean, if Fred Matiang'i, CS Interior, can also address this, we need as much assurance as we can. Kenyans need as much assurance as they can. Jeff Kirui, thank you so much. Ms. Mwangi, let me pick your mind as well. Jeff Kirui says we're expecting Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i to address the nation any minute from now. Both the police and the security agencies are being very guarded. How much information can the government give in terms of attacks like this?
So the information that the government can give at a point At this point we are is just enough to assure the public and not expose more, and not expose what they know in depth, because as they continue to save more people from the building and neutralize the attackers, they need to collect as much information as they can for use in prosecution of these people if they're found, if the attackers are rescued or, removed from the building alive. And so I do not see the CS Interior telling us too much information at this point. It will not be prudent of him to tell us, for instance, the number of casualties, how many attackers have been neutralized so far. That is information that the public will get much later on. But I think the most important thing right now is for people to know from him whether it is a terrorist attack or not. And he might not even disclose that because saying too much might be playing into the terrorist's mind. So just like every other Kenyan, I am eager to hear what he has to say. I will not try to come up with a script that he will give at this press conference. Yeah.
Mr. Witty, what are you hoping to hear from the CS? I mean, how much info?
I think I'll support what she says. Today, it's fair, it's been done well. I want to say it is really unnecessary to say much at this moment.
Yeah, but
what
are the essentials? What are the essentials? The Cabinet Secretary Interior, what are the essentials? What must he tell Kenyans?
Remember, the Cabinet Secretary is not a security specialist.
I know.
And therefore, he has to give room for people who are security specialists to assess the situation, investigate whether people who are claiming responsibility are doing it correctly, and so that he can give an accurate information to the public. He's a CS, and therefore his word he would be judged by his word, and therefore whatever he's doing is the right thing. You need to allow the people who are competent in this do an assessment. Remember, with this era of fake news, anybody would send anything and it will circulate on social media, and that so-and-so is claiming responsibility for the attack. And you will be rewarding them, you'll be terrorizing yourselves using social media. So therefore, whatever also is running on the social, in fact, I wanted to mention that there is need for behavior change. I know Kenyans...
Behavior change from where?
Behavior change in terms on how to use our phones. You will find Kenyans, somebody is getting attacked. Instead of them rushing to help, they would be rushing to take videos so that they can circulate. So there's a way there's a behavior shift that needs to be worked on so that people can learn more on how to respond or to get off a danger zone instead of quickly picking videos to send them all over. I think that is not necessary. Secondly, we may not be in a position to talk about responsibility at this juncture because it has to be investigated. The investigative agencies in Kenya are good enough. They should be able to advise Kenyans on who is responsible at a later stage when they have evidence to support that fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I understand my colleague Francis Ontomwa is still at Riverside. Ontomwa, can you hear me? Ontomwa, Francis Ontomwa, can you hear me? This is the continued coverage of the attack at Riverside. We have been doing this for you for the last couple of hours. We've had our reporters stationed around that particular building. Francis Ontomwa is there for us. Can Ontomwa hear me?
Linda, I can hear you loud and clear from the Riverside.
What's happening now?
Well, Linda, at this stage, the security puzzle here continues. At this stage, it's now 5 hours and still counting. Not much still coming out as far as information, as far as ending the lives of those attackers is concerned. Still scanty details coming from officers here. But then at this stage, we understand that there is a fresh evacuation process that is underway currently because there are more people that are still holed up in the building that is under siege. And we understand that security apparatus, and of course, this is a multi-agency sort of operation. We've seen officers from almost all departments of the police moving here inside the building, trying to ensure that they evacuate as many as possible. And at this stage, it is important to note that police are saying that their main concern or their main focus right now, they are focused to ensure that they are able to save as many lives as they can. But at this stage, we don't know how many attackers are still in there, and we don't know where they are located at this stage. Of course, we had the IG saying that they've managed to take hold, or rather take control of most of the floors of the building that they are operating. But at this moment, really, we don't know how much is coming out of this. And of course, looking at the number of hours, Linda, that this operation has taken, really, there are some people who are saying that perhaps this is more coordinated than the last attack we saw at Westgate, which of course, again, not very far from where we are standing. But then also looking at this period that it has taken, there are questions also piling on really how they are coordinating here, because there are wrecker squad here, there are military officers and all other wings of the police all trying to put their heads around this subject. But we've also seen foreign number plates, foreign cars getting into this particular area, of course, trying to ensure that they are able to save their nationals. So this is an all-in-all really sort of operation that is trying to ensure that at this stage, important is how many lives they'll be able to save, Linda.
I'm worried, Tom, about the number of people, call them spectators. I'm seeing, is it a city clock, and then on the other side, there are a couple of people, spectators who've been there since afternoon. I am worried about those people. What is going on in terms of clearing that area? It's not safe at all.
Linda, the main area has been cordoned off here by the police, and then the many people you are seeing around here are actually, most of them are journalists and plainclothes officers who are around this particular area. There is a way in which the police have stopped any movement from the lower part of this particular road, that is the Riverside Drive, and ensured that it's only the members of the fourth estate and also officers who are able to access this particular location. So the people you are seeing here, some are rescuers from the Kenya Red Cross, the AMREF, and many other agencies that are trying to ensure that this operation succeeds. And at this stage, really not many civilians are allowed to get at this particular stage. And because a few minutes ago we've had gunshots right into that particular building, then it tells you that it's an active operation currently, and therefore at this moment they are quite careful really not to allow anyone to come close.
Tom, I did mention that there's some rescue operation that was going on. They managed to rescue more people?
Yes, indeed. We've seen a number of people trickling out of that particular building. At some point, we saw droves of people coming out, but at this moment, we are only seeing a person after another one coming out of this particular building. A few moments ago, I had a chit-chat with one who has just really moved out of that particular building, and he has recounted on how he has lasted for at least 3 hours hidden in the ceiling of his office. That is a man who is in charge of one of the agencies that are in this particular building. He told us how he managed to try and push out his employees out, but as he was trying to come out, he had gunshots actually directed at his door, and he had to do what he had to do was actually to go to the toilet room and ensure that he finds a space into the ceiling where he has hidden all the while until security officers managed to get him outside.
Okay, let's try and give as little information as we can. There may be people still hiding in that building, and we're all praying that every single person who's in that building gets to be rescued. We're praying for safety for each and every person in that particular building. Francis Ontomwa, thank you. So before we wrap this up and I hand it over to Ben Kitili and Michelle Ngele, Mr. Awiti, sorry, the time frame that it has taken, Ontomwa says 5 hours and still counting. There are those who argue that you'd rather take as much time as you can and save as many people as you can. There are also others who argue that the longer you take, the more unprepared you look. Mr. Witte, can you hear me?
I lost you at some point.
All right, so I was having a conversation with my colleague Francis Ontomwa, and he was just mentioning that this has been 5 hours and counting. There are two scenarios. There are those who say you'd rather take a long time and save as many people as you can, but there's also the notion that the longer you take indicates that you're not prepared for such incidences.
Okay. There are two things here. It doesn't really matter the time it takes to handle, because when you're approaching an area like this, you must fairly judge to find out exactly the number of terrorists probably who are there, how they entered the place, what are likely casualties, what is the approach of the attack, what equipment did they use, yeah? And therefore, it is critically important that they take a bit of their time to be able to save people quickly. When you enter into a building and you discover that they are in wing A of the building, then you need to strategize, plan your attack, so that you are able to get hold of these people in good time to save everybody. But so it really doesn't matter
The
time
timing
that
is a non-issue, really.
that you want to get into.
Okay.
There are circumstances that will warrant the time that you want to take to save people.
Ms. Mwangi?
I agree with him. I think as much as it is important for Kenyans to know exactly what happened, was behind what, the most important thing is saving lives. If possible, no other life should be lost, which is everyone's prayer at this point. And it is more important for people to leave that building safe and for intelligence to be collected by law enforcement to be used to prevent further attacks than for us to do a haphazard job just in the name of saving face for the law enforcement agencies. So it has been 5 long hours for the people of Kenya waiting to hear about what happened, but equally for the law enforcement agencies who have put their lives on the line to make sure that everyone is saved. So it shall be well, shall be well. However
Ms.
long
Mwangi,
it takes.
let's talk about social media. And there's this conversation that the more, and I know you've alluded to it as well, that the more the media covers this, the more the terror organization, if at all, gets material that they can use in passing out their message. Where then do you draw the line in terms of coverage and not allowing terror organizations to get material to use?
The most important thing is for the media to learn, or rather for people with knowledge to give adequate training to the media on how to respond, because I understand where the media is coming from. Everybody wants to be the one to break the news, to give the best coverage of the event, but at the same time it should not be at the expense of the country and even the journalists themselves. So the most important thing is for the media to get training, and even the public, so that they can be able to do responsible self-censorship, where it is not the government telling you, oh, do not report this, but you as the media decide, we got 50 photos from this incident, 35 of them are showing the victims in a very indignified manner. Let us just use these 3, and if we're doing live coverage, let's do it from a point where our journalists are safe, we're not telling too much information, and if possible, the most important thing is for us as a country to be able to move on. I can give an example of an attack that happened in Israel one time, and one of our former lecturers at the university was interviewed by journalists, and he said, I can't make it to the studio because I have to go play a basketball match. And he was asked, but there was an attack about 30 minutes ago. But he said the most important thing is for us as a nation to resume normalcy as fast as possible.
The faster you get
So,
back to your normal life, the better.
yes, so live coverage is good, but let's not do it so much that it is the only thing that Kenyans see, because the media informs everything.
All right. Oscar Awete, Security Risk Consultant, Eastern Central Africa, and Tabitha Mwangi, Research Associate, Terrorism Center for International Security Affairs. I need both of you to stay with me, because this coverage is not ending anytime soon. We will stay at Riverside until the last minute. So I would ask you to please stay with us, because you will be engaging my colleagues Ben Kitili and Michelle Ngele, who are now taking over from me as we continue this coverage. Remember, we have teams on the ground. We have Sophia Wanuna, who's at Riverside. We have Jeff Kirui as well, who's following up on the updates by the Inspector General of Police. We have Dr. Mercy Korir, who's been walking around hospitals just trying to figure out the number of casualties we have and what exactly is going on. Am I allowed to hand over to Ben Kitili and Michelle? Can we hand over?
Exactly 3 years after the infamous Battle of El Ade, where Al-Shabaab militants overran a Kenyan-run AMISOM army base in El Ade, Somalia, a dark cloud hangs over the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, tonight in the wake of yet another attack.
There is a heavy presence of Kenyan security agents on 14 Riverside Drive and its environs tonight following explosions and gunfire that have left several people dead and dozens injured.
As of now, details remain scanty on the suspected terror attack, even as rescue teams continue operations. We are covering this unfortunate incident in the way only we here on KTN News can.
Our team of reporters has been following events for you all afternoon and evening. KTN News' Jeff Kirui and Francis Otomwa are at Riverside tonight, keeping an eye on things for us there. Dr. Masi Koriri is still with the medical teams in various city hospitals to keep an eye on what's happening there. Welcome to the broadcast tonight. Our sign language interpreter is Gideon Bogo. My name is Michelle Ngele Obiambo.
Our all-to-all coverage of the attack at Riverside starts right now. I am Ben Kitili. Several people dead after terrorist attack Dusit Hotel in Nairobi's Riverside area.
Pain and agony as panic-stricken survivors narrate their ordeal during the attack.
Plus, several victims of the attack nursing serious injuries in various city hospitals.
We are aware that there still could be some armed criminals still holed up in the building, and our special forces are, as I said, engaged in that operation to flush them out.
And the police say security enhanced in the city as they pursue those behind the attack.
Welcome to the broadcast. It is a story that has been all over across the country, especially on social media. A lot of information coming out. We are going to start with our big question. Tonight we are asking you on our big Q if you are satisfied with the manner in which the situation is being handled following that attack on 14 Riverside. Tell us what you think.
Now, the number of casualties is yet to be confirmed after gunmen attacked the Dusit D2 hotel situated at the 14 Riverside Drive.
Well, the attackers are said to have detonated explosives and shot at civilians indiscriminately during the 4 p.m. incident. And as
Akisa Wandera reports on accounts of the day, finer details of the attack still remain unclear.
All right, so Kisa Wandera is working on the details, exactly what has happened for the last 5 hours or so. But let's begin with what's happening at Ground Zero, where our Francis Ontomwa is standing by to bring us the very latest. Francis, good evening. What can you tell us tonight?
Well, Ben, it has been 5 hours and still counting, and we're still standing here at the Riverside where this siege is currently going on. Security apparatus here are still calling this an active operation because as we are speaking right now, the operation is going on. We've seen a multi-sectoral security agencies moving into this particular location to ensure that they're able to flush out these attackers. But important at this stage, and what they've kept telling us as the media, is that they're telling us that what they're concerned and really focused on at this stage is to ensure that they evacuate as many people as they can. And indeed, we've seen hundreds actually driven out of these premises, moving out of this particular area. And later on, we actually saw the number reducing. But at this stage, there is a top copter involved in the operation that has hinted that they are planning to make another onslaught to ensure that they move in and ensure that they try and move out as many people as they can. So at this moment, it is quite calm because a couple of minutes ago, we had actually gunshots coming from the area of operation, just to indicate that indeed the operation is ongoing. And to give you a hint of who is involved in this particular operation, we have a wide array of security apparatus from the Kenya's elite squad, the Reke squad, the military, the Kenya police, all the wings, the general service unit, and all other departments of the police. We are seeing them involved in this particular operation. This siege, Ben, began at around 3:48. That is the time that you are told the enemy struck at that particular time. And the first thing that was heard was a huge explosion from the witnesses' account that we've managed to gather from this location. And thereafter, from there, they had gunshots renting the air in this particular structure. And thereafter, that is when there was that response. And important that also, Ben, there has been a correlation that many analysts have brought into this particular scenario with the Westgate of 2013. Even before this ends, we've had some analysts trying to look at how this has been tried to be coordinated by security apparatus. And first, there are some who are agreeing that it's quite well coordinated, but also there are critics also looking at the time span that this has taken. There are many others who are questioning really on the number of, or rather how well it is being coordinated. But at this particular point, we are seeing everyone, multi-sectoral teams here, the rescuers here from the AMREF, from the Kenya Red Cross, all of them trying to ensure that they manage to help as many people as they can. At this point, we also saw foreign number plates of vehicles moving into this particular area, and this is to indicate that foreign countries are also involved in this particular position. And it's interesting, Ben, to look at the positioning of this, where this has happened. This is an important area because where we are standing is actually not very far from Kenya's State House, not very far from the Australian Embassy, also not very far from the University of Nairobi here, Chiromo campus. So it is quite a very, very, very interesting location that the enemy really looked at and really chose. So there is that particular approach right now to ensure that they are able to save as many lives as possible, Ben.
And Ontomwa, we understand the number of casualties is yet to be established, but is there perhaps a support desk set up by the Kenya Red Cross where those looking for their loved ones can find information?
Well, indeed, there is a temporary desk that we saw set up by the Kenya Red Cross, trying to ensure that they receive these people as they come out of the building, trying to console them, talk to them, because most of them indeed are quite traumatized. And there was, as indicated earlier, there are some that we've managed to have chit-chats with. They have given horrific details of how they manage really to try and hide and ensure that they are safe. And looking at all this, really, there is some good support coming from this particular rescue agencies, trying, of course, to come in and ensure that they move in and ensure that they try and stand in for these particular people. It is also interesting to see how this area has been cordoned off from the public. There is